Well, hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome to Chicago. Well, thankfully, the rain's holding off here. We're at Fullerton and Clark here. Here's these beautiful buildings that have the green cornice here. You see how this rooted matches the Five Guys here. And look at this beautiful detailing here. You see how it goes all down along the Taco Bell. And it did the same thing over to the Urban Outfitters, but I don't know if they took some of it off. But here, this glaze tile here, but these beautiful buildings along Fullerton. Here's Clark, so we'll just tootle around Lincoln Park. Julie, how you doing there? Mary Teresa, yeah, lunch bunch time. The rain's holding off. So I kept checking the radar. There's rain in the area, so I got an umbrella just in case. We're gonna see if we can get a hour-long YouTube walk in here. And yeah, I'm not downtown today. I'm up in the neighborhood where I live, working from home. I'm kicking myself. You know, I did do a message this morning on YouTube like a dummy. For some reason, I didn't follow up and see that I somehow just replied to a previous post, and I don't think anybody saw it. Now, I know people, you might have saw it on TikTok there. And here, let me let these people get ahead of me so I'm not cramping their style. That's a Mies van der Rohe building, the 2400 North Lake Shore, or Lakeview, 2400 North Lakeview, excuse me. Here's another modernist thing here. And yeah, usually we head down Cleveland here. Oops. So they call this the Park West here. Yeah, they got these beautiful apartment buildings. But yeah, I don't think anybody saw my message on YouTube this morning. Sorry about that. I know there was confusion. I'll take the blame for that. But I'll eventually find a better way to communicate with everybody, because, you know, there's always rain. I can do with the snow. I can stream in the snow. The rain and the wind. It was raining and windy this morning. Hey, Taco, how you doing there? Sharon, Mary Therese, Michael. Yeah. No, it's not raining there. Thanks, Michael. Thanks for figuring out there, Chris. Appreciate it. My smart audience there. J&M, Laura, how you doing there? Yeah, so we'll keep on going here. Look at this new construction. Look how fast this building's going up here. So, see, this used to be the Cynical. This is a multi-family apartment building that's going up here. And it's on Fullerton here. We're just a little west of Cleveland. And here, we'll get you this facade here. So, hey, new construction here on Fullerton, Lincoln Park here. And yeah, this beautiful tree-lined street. We've gone down it many times. I'm sure you people from the lunch bunch will recognize it. But we'll go down Fullerton and we'll come back on Arlington. We'll zig and zag around on Clark. We'll see how the rain, and I'll just eventually go up to Lakeview. My goal is to get to Mariano's there across from the Flubbed Up Chup. Look at this. This is new construction too. So this church of Our Savior, I think that's what they call this here. It's a Protestant church. And look at that, they're building a community center there. They do so much outreach for the homeless here, people that they're camping in the park and stuff like that. Socks, clothing, they do meals. Church of Our Savior here. It's actually a new parish center. I said that wrong. It's a whole new parish center. So they're going to use it for the church. Look at the stained glass windows. I've never gone and tried inside this church. Maybe I'll try it sometime, but probably not today. But here, we'll just head down Fullerton. Christy, how you doing there? I hope everybody's having a good day there. Yeah, $3K a month studio. I know, the housing prices are too high. I agree. We all want inflation to come down. You know, I don't see any difference in prices from the previous administration to this new administration. So much of this election was about, we need more housing, not only in this city, but all cities, at least in the United States here, because we have a housing shortage. And we'll see if it gets better or worse. And see, it's all beyond our control. You know, it's these market forces, you know. And yeah, taxes are high. We got cuts in CTA coming up here. We got a bunch of major issues facing not just this city, but this country. And I know people always tune in about prices like they expect me to do something about it. I'm right there with you. You know, Christopher Dotson complains about prices are too high as well. You know, we feels it in New York, we feel it here. Don't act like it's just one area, not where you're at either. You know, maybe the housing's much cheaper where you're at. I enjoy it. Enjoy that you live in an area that's a much lower cost of living. It's very expensive to live in these cities, especially here on the north side with all these historic districts. And you know how people from the baby boom generation, they rode this wave of, you know, we even through the housing crisis. Housing prices kept going up, and then there was a crash, and then they recovered, and the government did everything it could to shore up housing prices. And now we got the opposite problem, where housing is unaffordable for the entry-level people, the people starting families, the people trying to move and establish themselves. And it's, you know, you want to take that much debt, and eventually this will be the new crisis, is that, you know, all this accumulated wealth, not generational wealth, the build-up of housing prices, you know, because like if you sell your house, if you buy a cheaper house, like it happens a lot to empty nesters. Why do a lot of empty nesters sell their suburban house and get a condo downtown? Because they want to not have to pay capital gains on their wealth, you know, appreciation of their housing, and so they buy a smaller unit. Those expensive condos, multi-million-dollar condos in the Gold Coast and downtown Streeterville and Lakeshore East, you know. And here we are in Fullerton here. Welcome to Chicago. We're in Fullerton here, this beautiful historic district, and you see these beautiful houses all along here. And thanks for tuning in there. No, this is not my home. I cannot afford these things either. I live in a one-bedroom apartment, so there might be one-bedroom apartments in here, but yeah, my number one highest cost is housing. I don't own a car, and why am I walking so much? We talk about this all the time. But hey, look at these beautiful houses on Fullerton here. I'm just heading to the grocery store. This is my break from lunch at work. Thanks for tuning in here. Usually I stream downtown. I'm working from home today because I took my laptop home last night. Even when I was walking along the beach here, I had a big backpack. People on the beach were like, look at this guy. It's almost 90 degrees and he's got a big backpack walking on the beach. But I carried my laptop home so I could work from home when it was raining and windy this morning. I'm starting to check the weather report there. But hey, Krista, Dolores there. How's everybody doing there? Scarborough there. Again, cities are not for everybody. Some people like living in dense environments because you can walk to a restaurant, you don't have to own a car, you can live next to transit. You sound like a person, whoever made that comment, who would want to live so close together. Some people like living in the country, some people like living out in the middle of the wilderness, wooded areas, suburban areas. Maybe the suburbs are more for you. That's great. Different strokes for different folks. I think you're smart enough to understand that not everybody wants to live the way you do, and not everybody wants to live the way I do. This is not a promotion. This is just so you could see what you never have to come here. People always think I'm trying to get people to vacation here, spend money. That's not what I'm doing here. I'm showing you what exists here, so you don't have to take the risk. You don't have to come to the big bad city and all the things that people endlessly and incessantly worry about in my live streams. You know, you don't have to. You can just watch from the safety of your wherever you're watching there. Look at these beautiful houses. Look at this. So, you know, all I ask is just appreciate the aesthetics that at one time this was built and it still exists in the world. And just appreciate it. Appreciate these beautiful houses here. We just turned on Orchard Street. We're north of Fullerton here, Lincoln Park, Chicago. And these three are all, we've shown them before, they're all modeled off the same pattern here. They're different stone materials, but if you notice, their porches are the same. Their stoops are the same. They're set back from each other. They got yards. They probably got coach houses in the back, or off the alley. They have a garage where they can have parking, and maybe they have a housing above their coach house even. But look at the size of these houses. These are, again, you know, of course, these are multi-million-dollar mansions that I'm showing here. I'm not a real estate agent. I'm not trying to get you to buy anything. I'm just trying to get you to appreciate the aesthetics of housing here in Lincoln Park, Chicago, and why it's so expensive. This is why. And it's always been expensive this was more middle class in the 50s, 60s, and 70s. Oops, how you doing there? And gotta watch for the scooters there. But here, we'll head down Arlington. So St. Clement's is up there, that beautiful church. We've gone inside there. Here, I'll just give you a peek to it. It's kind of modeled off of the Hagia Sophia in Istanbul. And we might head down Deming. I'll just zig back and forth. Hey, thanks everybody for tuning in. Welcome to Chicago. If you just joined, we're in Lincoln Park. I'm not downtown today. I work from home. So if we're walking on Orchard here, we're going to head down Arlington. And we're mixing it up here. And this is the neighborhood where I live, so it's easy. Please don't ask me to go all over the place. I'm just trying to work from home today and trying to get a live stream in between the rain. There might be another batch of rain coming here. So I'm just going to try to head to Mariano's, a grocery store, pick up a few items, and then start preparing for my Texas trip. I won't be able to live stream as much. Well, we'll see how it goes. You know, people know how, if some of you have been around long enough, you know, when I go to Texas, I want to spend time with my family. And I do find a way to live stream most days, but I won't be at a consistent schedule. And it always hurts my numbers every time I take a vacation because people don't know where to find me, or they're confused and they're like, why are you streaming in Texas? Why isn't this Chicago? And it just leads to a bunch of misunderstanding. People think I'm moving to Texas. I'm like, no, I'm visiting my family. Don't spread all these rumors. But here, we'll head through. See, we got some rain this morning. We got the puddles here. We're on, this is Arlington Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago here. But there's this hostel. I've shown this hostel before, the Getaway Hostel. And so there are, that's the most affordable housing or lodging in this area. And it's actually an amazingly nice location for a hostel, because a lot of the hostels I've stayed in aren't as nice of areas as this. Hey, how you doing there? Dolores? Kevin? Of course, we have good Italian food. This is Chicago. We have, not just in the historic Italian neighborhoods, you can go to Elmwood Park or Little Italy on the west side of Chicago, but even downtown, of course, we got Chicago-style pizza, but we got many other real Italian restaurants with real Italian families that have lived here for generations that'll cook you good Italian food. So here's Chicago Getaway Hostel. How you doing here? Look at this beautiful hostel here in Lincoln Park here. It's on Arlington Street. You got the flags there. And yeah, look at the ivy. Chicago Getaway Hostel. It's on Arlington, in between Orchard and Geneva Terrace. Geneva Terrace is just a block west of Clark Street, so you can get off on the Fullerton stop on the brown, purple, and red line, and it's only a few blocks from the train station. You were here, yeah, a lot of green. We got the trees here. Northern Illinois. That's great. Let's see, there's too many comments coming in here. I'm trying to read some of the comments I missed here. So here, I missed some comments here, but we'll get the new ones coming in here. Yeah, I understand. I had culture shock even from, I grew up in the country, so I grew up in southeast Indiana in the soybeans and cornfields. But I did live in Cincinnati before that. Cincinnati's not as large as Chicago, but I started traveling to Chicago in the 90s and started to figure out how to use transit. I went to Seattle, New York, other places, and figured out how to use transit. And, but hey, I came here to work for an architecture and engineering firm, get more major projects. I'm a city planner, I'm not an architect, and that's why I enjoy these urban environments. See, I went the opposite way. I enjoy visiting the country. I like national parks and getting out in the wilderness. I do camp out and stuff, but I personally enjoy living in cities because I like the hustle and bustle. I like transit. I like not having to own a car. I like the density. To me, the density is exciting. It's cosmopolitan. You run into people from different cultures and backgrounds, and to me, it's more interesting. No offense to not all. You can find it in the country too, but it's just harder to find You know, there's more especially the suburbs. No offense to people in the suburbs. I'd rather live in the country than live in the suburbs. I'd rather live in the city than live in the suburbs. And there's some really beautiful suburbs. There's some historic suburbs. But most of the ones built after World War II, even the master plan ones, like we visit the Woodlands in Texas, and I'm sure I'll be streaming this time next week from the Woodlands there, the Riverwalk. They got a waterway, beautiful. They got some high-rise buildings and hotels and offices and multi-family housing as well, but it's different than this stuff that's existed over time. Took time for these trees to grow, this courtyard to fill out, these nice apartment buildings here on Arlington. This is a nice one. See that greenstone? Again, I don't know if that's just tile that they fixed to it there. We got this Tudor stuff. Yeah, move to the city there. Yeah, who's calling people names here, you know? What about me just walking down the street would cause anybody to call anybody names here? Yeah, San Antonio. San Antonio is beautiful. I've done the San Antonio Riverwalk here. Yeah, 15 acres. That's great. See, that's great. You got a nice estate there. That's great. Yeah, Chicago tamales. I got Chicago tamales. A friend of mine used to make them for his birthday. Make a big pot of tamales. I had to help him make them with the masa. His mother taught him how to make it. Real Chicago tamales there. Oh yeah, Chicago's much smaller than New York. I agree. New York City's the Big Apple, but Chicago's big enough for me. Here's Salvatore's Restaurante. A lot of people. Hey, it's a fallout shelter. Look at this old fallout shelter sign from the 50s and 60s. But here's this a nice apartment building. You can live above here. They got a courtyard, but below here is Salvatore's Restaurante. A lot of people rent this out for weddings and events. There's always stuff going on here on weekends. Here, Arlington Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago. Yeah, as far as the central business district, Chicago has the second largest central business district. Los Angeles is larger in population, but it's really spread out over, if you include Inland Empire, the San Fernando Valley, and you know, Chicagoland's pretty vast too. We have over 100 suburbs. They just recently built this building in the last 5 years. There was an empty lot there. They tore down a building and they went higher. And so the densities, they went as high as the zoning would allow. Look at these nice porches here. See how these porches are pretty much identical, but they painted one white and they painted one red. See, look, St. Clement's School. It's a parochial school. 10 years ago, yeah, so hopefully not much has changed in 10 years except for this building, 516. This is new. And see, this is Arlington, a nice tree-covered streets. And look at these stained glass windows. See, this is what I show. It's very, expensive and hard to build buildings like this with terracotta stained glass windows. They're expensive to maintain. But, yeah, old Victorian homes in Connecticut there. Yeah, you got it. So the homes on this street, a lot of the vintage residential were built in the late 1880s, early 1890s. So most of the buildings are well over 125 years old, these ones I showed here and the ones on Fullerton. And so much was built in Chicago really quickly after the Great Chicago Fire. It took a while after 1871, about 10 years, then to recover enough to get, the backlog of all. They started with rebuilding the downtown, and then these neighborhoods. A lot of stuff was built really quickly at the same time, and a lot of architects and developers and contractors and bricklayers and craftsmen that would do the sculpting and the construction of these buildings flooded to the city, and there was such a flurry of development, and the railroads they still came here, brought material from timber and bricks and quarries were all around here. And there were steel foundries making the metal work, and the L trains were all built, and the elevated transit and railroads and bridges, and the vast, think about the Union stockyards, all the stuff that was shipped here on a rail and processed and then shipped back out. And then Chicago became so congested, it was actually a victim of its own success that it became so expensive to because it became congested that Kansas City and Omaha and Fort Worth, Texas opened their own stockyards because it was closer to where the longhorn cattle were and the cattle that ranged out there in the Great Plains. Same with the timber. General Mills, Minneapolis grew because they had a waterfall there and they would mill the flour there. And here across the street here's the Tin Lizzie. They have turtle races here. We're back to Clark Street. So here's Clark Street, Lincoln Park, Chicago. This Walgreens used to be Lincoln Park Market, but now it's a Walgreens. They don't even use the whole square footage. They just want it the parking lot. The Walgreens used to be down the street, and that's Frank's is gone. Here's St. James there. Yeah, old school America. You got it. That guy's looking at me. I'm talking too loud here. Hey, get some vanilla ice cream. That's good. Yeah. Yeah, the airport's pretty far away, but you know, at least you could take the Blue Line to O'Hare, the transit, if you don't want to rent a car or take an Uber. And you can go to Midway, and there's the Orange Line. And yeah, most cities, the airports are way out. That's why I like going down the trains. I like going down Union Station because it's so much easier if you enter the train or you enter the city or the train station. You arrive at the center. Usually, most times when you fly on the airport, if you enter, you're on the edge there, and you always have to try to get to the city. That's why I really like Tokyo, because Tokyo, so much concentration. You know, most people can't handle the density and the small spaces and the transit. It's really hard to navigate the transit. But once you figure it out, the donut line. Nothing concentrates density more than rail passenger transportation. And that's what Tokyo, even though it was largely destroyed by World War II, the firebombing, they rebuilt it. And the trains, just like Chicago, the Great Chicago Fire, the trains still, and here's Collectivo Coffee, the train still worked and was able to help the city rebuild. We were still, all the train lines still ended in Chicago, and that's how the city was able to recover from the Great Chicago Fire. Here, we'll head up Clark Street. There's the 36 bus. And here, Aloha Eats. We go by these restaurants a lot here. We got 1218 here. Well, Jeff, where were you hanging out there? I guess that could happen even on the toilet seats. I'm sorry to hear that. You know, yeah. So, you know, oh, maybe you got it from me. There, you could spread a rumor there. You can say that I'm spreading what you got there. Here's Francis. There, look at that used to be a hospital. See across there, the studio salons, that used to be a hospital. And there's so many hospitals that used to be up here that most of them are gone. Here's Francis. This is a nice, the brunchery here. They have a nice diner here. A lot of people go here on Clark Street. Here's the Epic Snack Shack. They got snacks from all over the world. You can get Doritos with Chinese writing or from Middle East, or different snacks that you can't find with different seasoning from all over the world. French Cafe. See, I like all these restaurants. You could sit on these little tables and get bus fumes. My dad would always grab me. He's like, I'm not going to sit outside and smell bus fumes while I'm trying to eat my meal. Have a homeless person ask you for money when you're eating on the sidewalk. And that happens. You'll be sitting on the sidewalk and someone will come right up to you and almost spit in your food and ask for money, you know, and that's happened to me, you know. So I understand why the city's not for everybody, trust me. That could happen in Paris, though. Here, we'll try to cross here. We're at, here's Briny Swine here. We're at, here, let me cross over here. I want to cross the street here. Here's Clark Street. Look how foggy it is. You can't even see the John Hancock. We'll head through here. Oops, sorry. Yeah, he's looking at me. He's looking at me right now, too. He was ahead of me, and then I was trying to let him go, and then he stopped, and then he got behind me. So we'll see if he still follows me when he goes. I have no idea. He's just some guy walking. I think he's just fast. He's trying to figure out what I'm doing. People have all kinds. They think I'm a meter reader. They think I'm ICE. They think I'm police. The police could be tuning into my stream here, but so could North Korea and Russia. But here, we're just heading up Clark Street here. How's everybody doing here? We got June the 4th, 2024. We're just doing our lunch walk here. Thanks for tuning in here. And oops, okay, they're gonna let me go. Okay, Hey, look at the sculpture. Well, here, we'll head down Wrightwood here. You know where we're going. We're going to the Dewey's house. The Dewey's, the beer baron there. Yeah. Hong Kong, how you doing there? Painted bricks there. Eros, how you doing there? So the giant monolith building. Oh, that's the one with no windows on the side. That was housing. That was a condo building. And I'm always amazed they didn't put any windows north to south, because I think it's in the middle of the block, so they thought that eventually there'd be high rises on either side of them, or maybe there's a certain part in the ordinance where you can't put windows on buildings that don't face the street. But they do that all the time. You see it on these older buildings. But they would have amazing views down Clark Street to the Giant Hancock. I'm just amazed they didn't put any windows north and south on that building. Windows are all east and west. And I guess the east-facing windows have lake views. That's part of the reason the density is so high here, is we're near the lake. And there are high-rises that have high real estate values because they have views of the lake and rooftop pools and things like that. And it's near Lincoln Park. So, if you live in a small one-bedroom apartment in these buildings like that, you're only a block and a half from Lincoln Park. Park that's larger than Central Park. You got golf courses, zoos, free zoos, museums, harbors, bike paths, tons of ball fields, all kinds of things. Ponds with beavers in them. We saw the beaver last night in the South Pond. I still need to post that rerun there. You got beaches, beautiful lakefront, highway running next to the beaches, but you got like nature preserves, like Montrose Nature Preserve. We went out there on Friday. Hey, you're from Chicago there. D-Mans, how you doing there? Yeah. How's everybody doing? Ciao, how you doing there, Pierre? Yeah, people tuning in from everywhere. One Road Gemstone. Yeah. Happy Wednesday. See, we're getting this walk in. Yeah, you do a shout out. Yeah, new subscribers there. Newbury, England there. How you doing? Yeah, thanks for tuning in. So you got the internet there. I'm sure you can look. Just type in Lincoln Park apartment or housing prices there. I'm not a real estate agent. Don't get me quoting prices here, because I'll quote you the wrong price. Don't go by what I say. Look it up yourself. You could type in 60614 if you go to Zillow, and you'll see the listings. I think this at one time was as high as 10 million. I don't know what it's. I think these fluctuate according to the market. This is called the Dewey's house, Francis J. Dewey's house. There, Cudgel and Hurst, the architects. 1896. This was built after the World's Columbian Exposition, when all these European Renaissance revival styles were all the rage. And this is Baroque, kind of French Baroque style, like a French chateau. And they got this statues here. We'll look at it here. But Dewey's was a beer baron. He was a German beer baron. There was a lot of them, and they all built, not all of them, most of them built amazingly beautiful houses. Even Thurrer, the Wrigley Mansion, which is in this neighborhood. Of course, Wicker Park has well, that's right. Okay, that's fine. Wicker Park has some beautiful beer baron houses. Beer Baron Row, that we filmed that, and even in Old Town there with the Wacker house. Frederick Wacker was a beer baron, the father of Charles Wacker. That's what Wacker Drive's named after in Chicago. But look at even the side here. This is the Dewey's mansion here, and this is still to this day, this is a single-family private residence, and they got this multi-family across the way there. Yeah, the nice medallion there. Look at that. Yeah, see, this is Baroque style. Look at that. Yeah, let's go up there and look at that. Look at that detailing. So the statues are kind of Asian, but the rest of it's pretty well maintained. Hey, I like that. That's great. You got the raincoat. Hey, you doing there? Yeah, you got the raincoat on the dog there. You see that? Yeah. So here, thanks for tuning in. Here's the Wrightwood Apartments, and of course the lobby is just beautiful. It's hard to see in there. Maybe we can see in there since it's a cloudy day. These were built in 1929, right before the Great Depression. And there was a lot of buildings planned to be like this that were canceled because of the Great Depression. You can imagine what a shame that was, because I don't think a building would be built like this today, because it would cost too much. Yeah. Yeah, Buckingham Palace. Yeah, they could fix it up with some staff there. See, then you see the mid-century moderns. They got pools at the top. Let's go check out the. See this detailing above the door. Wrightwood Apartments here. We're Wrightwood and Hamden Court there. We'll head over to Pine Grove. They're redoing the bricks here. But you got these, 4-story walk-up apartments, and these got elevators and they got little courtyards. Look at that amazing density. I know somebody tuning in is like, I couldn't stand to live that close to somebody else, but people do it. And you ever go to Hong Kong? Look at this Griffins. Look at these Griffins. This amazing detailing. That's why I like showing this stuff. And then this has a nice lobby as well. There's the St. James building on St. James. It's similar. It has these lobbies. And some of these used to be like apartment hotels where you could rent them like hotels or you could rent them like apartments. They would do that in the 1920s and 30s. And, a lot of the gangsters like Al Capone and Bugs Moran, they would live in hotels because people at that time of means would just rent a suite because they thought it was more secure and they could change their room. People couldn't tell which room they were in. So if you're trying to not being attacked, running the mob there. Here's the Second Church of Christ Scientists. And there was a dome here. This was built with great fanfare in 1905 or around there. And a lot of these churches, they get sold and the developers buy them up. And they convince the congregation that they'll build a chapel, but then they'll sell off the air rights for housing. And it brings money into these churches that they get a smaller congregation. And it preserves the facade. At least it's preserving the facade. We lost the dome. I'm sure the interior was just beautiful that we lost there. And now, capitalism takes over. And so here's Pine Grove and Wrightwood. And that's why, I'm glad that people are paying attention to how much housing costs. If you don't like, talk to BlackRock, talk to Vanguard, talk to all the giant hedge funds that buy up housing. And, if you don't like inflation in housing, why do you like inflation in the stock market? Because a lot of those profits end up in the stock market off of the, fleecing people for money off of housing. And banks do it too. Banks finance this stuff. Here's and we're all forced to invest in banks. It's like we have no other choice. The market goes up even when it's supposed to go down. Because it always goes up. At least, since the Great Recession, has there really been a real sell-off? Even COVID, it didn't last like more than a month. Here, look at the housing here. And these are just my opinions here. Whatever I say, someone's going to push back, but I'm just going to keep saying what I say anyway, because this is my perspective on the world. I might not have everything right, but hey, let's head up Pine Grove here. Jesse James, that's good. Yeah, I have ancestors that have been in this country for hundreds of years as well, and that's great. Great. Thanks for researching your family's history there. I have ancestors that fought Civil War, Revolutionary War, French and Indian War. Some of them were with the Native Americans, and some of them were with the Europeans. And my ancestors, they were Indian traders, which were the worst type of white people. I'm joking. Yeah, and I even have Melungeon ancestry. Look it up; it's a real thing. And there are still mysteries in the world. Isn't that great? Here's see these mid-century moderns here. We lost some of this housing. Yeah, I know a man who kissed his wife in Chicago. Yeah, Roselia, how you doing there, Rosella? Thanks everybody, all our new followers here. Yeah. Thanks for our people tuning in here. Yeah, we got Taco Tuesday, Taco Wednesday. Yeah, we've gone by the original Playboy Mansion. We walked by there several times. Usually State Street between Schiller and Goethe in the Gold Coast of Chicago is the original Playboy Mansion. Hugh Hefner bought that in 1959. I have reruns on TikTok. If you don't, I know not everybody has TikTok. That's why I'm on YouTube. But if you do have TikTok, you can follow me on TikTok. I have many more followers on TikTok, and I got reruns of the Playboy Mansion. I can send you one. I'm sure I went by it on YouTube. I just probably didn't cut it out. But hey, thanks for knowing that. Yeah, the original Playboy Mansion before they moved out to Beverly Hills was in Chicago. Hugh Hefner started Playboy in Hyde Park, and then he moved up to the Gold Coast there when he made his fortune selling Marilyn Monroe's dirty pictures there. But here's, yeah, we'll go by the Brewster. Remember, last Friday we walked by S&A Studios, and I should have walked to the back. See, I learned stuff. In the back, there's a mural to Charlie Chaplin, but I didn't know that. I didn't know I could walk back there, but, you know, I looked down that alley with the St. Augustine College is there. It's up in Uptown. It's on Argyle Street. S&A Studios. There was movie studios in Chicago and New York City during the silent movie era. Charlie Chaplin briefly lived in Chicago. I think he filmed some short silent films there in S&A Studios, but he didn't like Chicago. And when he was in Chicago making those movies, he slept on some guy's couch that probably worked for S&A Studios, and they lived here in Brewster. This was a very prestigious address, as you can imagine, in 1915, but Charlie Chaplin didn't like Chicago, so there you go. See, Charlie Chaplin didn't like Chicago, and he went out to LA, and created his own studio out there. But here we're at Diversity in Pine Grove here. There's the Brewster. If you've seen Child's Play from the 80s or Running Scared, the movie there with Billy Crystal and Gregory Hines, they use this movie. The interior is just amazing. They got glass block stairwells. I can't get inside there because it's a private residence. That used to be Yaxie's, now it's De Niro's. They got a bar there in that house there. But here we're crossing Diversity at Pine Grove here. We're leaving Lincoln Park. The lake's this way. See, we just look at that density. Look at that all those 40-story high-rises are along Lakeview. And this is looking down Pine Grove and this amazing housing here. Hey, here it is. Chicago landmark, Brewster Apartments, Enoch Turnock, 1893. So this has a steel frame construction. They put this veneer. These are like 6-inch pieces of stone. It's got the innovative interior with light and airy construction. It's got glass blocks with a skylight on the inside. And they built buildings like this in LA. If you ever seen Blade Runner, that movie they use in that building they use in Blade Runner, very dystopic, you know, with the interior light court with the stairs. It's kind of like that on the inside here, a little different. But here's the Brewster. Look at this beautiful, yeah. Oh, a lot of great celebrity history here. I learned more by doing this, you know. Like even, was that yesterday? I know I said the guy's name wrong. The old, he was like a really well-known guy there with the guy with the big nose that used to, I said his name, Durante, Jimmy Durante. I said his name wrong there. Does anybody know what I'm talking about there? They was a club down in Streeterville, and they used to perform there in like the 50s and 60s. So to me, it's not cold. To me, it's like 60 degrees. We're like right at 60 degrees. I'm just glad it's not raining because we got 12:34, and I'm heading up to Mariano's here. So what I'll do, Michael, and I don't know if Ernie or whoever else is tuning in here, and it's only if you want. If you got other stuff to do, let me know. I don't have to stream. You know, I want to be. I want to accommodate my mod team here to make sure I don't want to put anybody out. But I'm probably going to go to Mariano's, and I'll end this live before I go into Mariano's in about another 20 minutes here. And after I'm finished grocery shopping, since I didn't stream this morning, if it's not raining, which it looks like the rain's holding off here, I'll stream on TikTok on my walk back, and we'll pick a different route on our way back. And anybody's welcome to that. If you like this on YouTube, you could follow me on TikTok and watch the live stream. The reason I'm on multiple platforms, it's a strategy. In case I get banned from one, I can switch to the other. And I don't want to start multiple accounts on one because they could ban them all. So I got to play YouTube off of TikTok. And I am on Instagram, but I usually don't use it. Except to just look at horrible crash videos they feed me up there. And scantily clad women that want me to go to their OnlyFans sites. Oh, what a world we've built. A world of digital corruption. I won't speak of the current battle between Musk and the current administration. I'm sure you've seen news articles about that. People don't want to hear my opinion about it, right? Yeah, thanks, Dolores. Down with that, Michael. Thanks a lot. So that's the plan here. So we'll continue streaming here on YouTube until I get to Mariano's. Then I'll go grocery shopping, and then about little after 1 o'clock, like 1:15, 1:20, we'll pop back up on TikTok, and we'll walk back. Because I started work at 7 o'clock this morning. Since I've already been working for 5 hours, so I could take a longer lunch break. I'm still not for sure what I'm doing tonight. I thought about trying the fireworks. I know Ernie said he was going to stream the fireworks, so I don't want to cramp his style. But they are shooting fireworks off at Navy Pier tonight at 9 p.m. I might, at 5 o'clock, I think the rain's supposed to be done. So I'm thinking tentatively at 5 o'clock, I'll start my usual evening walk on TikTok. I'll walk downtown until I get to the Bean. We'll go all from Lincoln Park to the Bean. We might go through the neighborhoods. And then I'll go to the office and in the live and recharge my stuff. And then I'll wait till about 8 o'clock at night, and we might walk along the river walk over to Navy Pier and do the fireworks. And then I'll either go home or crash in the office. I got a air mattress I can sleep on in the office. There'll be probably no one in the office today. I've done that before for Lollapalooza. When we stayed up later for Lollapalooza, I would crash in the office. And there are showers, but I need to pay for them just in the building there. You got to belong to the health club. Cambridge Avenue here at Pine Grove. If you just joined, we're in Lakeview here. We're heading over towards Broadway. We'll tootle up and down Broadway a little bit before I go and do Mariano's here. We might go all the way up to Broadway. Yeah. Oh, you got a fish? Yeah, that's good. Oh, you're going fishing tonight. That's good. Woke up at midnight. Yeah, I've never gotten so much free advice. I know I could do tours here. I don't want to quit my day job. I work for an architecture and engineering firm. So if I did architectural tours, I would end up not enjoying it because it's too much like work. Because you got to actually, I got to research everything. I'm doing all this off the top of my head here. I'm not a expert on anything. I'm a generalist. Here's the Willows Hotel. We'll show it here. There is if you're looking for a nice little boutique hotel out of the downtown, you could stay up here in Lakeview, southern end of Lakeview. And they got the Willows Hotel here. I don't know what the prices are. They got a web page. You can type in the Willows Hotel, Lincoln Park, Chicago, and you'll see the rates. I don't know why people would expect me to know this stuff, but people do ask it. They're like, how much? I'm like, I don't know. I was going to ask you. Here's the Willows Hotel. There they got the nice, yeah, look at that. I guess you could open those windows. This is on Surf Street at Broadway. And they got these nice courtyard apartment buildings. This is Chicago. We're in Lakeview. We got about 60 degrees. June the 4th, 2025. We got 12:39 in the PM. Here's the Greenbrier. I think probably every city has a building named Greenbrier. This is the one in Chicago here. Hey, yeah, Ernie was at Navy Pier yesterday. I saw Ernie at Navy Pier. That was great. You went all the way out to the end there. It was windy, but he got the Whitecaps there on the Lake Michigan. That was great. I couldn't stay on his whole live there because I went and posted some of my own stuff, reruns from our walk home there. But that was great. Thanks for streaming there yesterday, Ernie. He's Chicago Nuggies there on TikTok. And Christopher Dotson posted some more content from Chicago. That's great. He's still posting content. They saw so much stuff, him and his friend, when they were here in Chicago. Yeah, we got alleys. Doesn't it help out Roses in Bloom? Thanks for the good info there. Yeah, so if you just joined, we're on Broadway. We're on Broadway, this commercial strip here. I'm heading up to Mariano's to go grocery shopping here. Yeah, with Surf and Broadway. Surf and Broadway is where the Willows Hotel is. See Surf Street. Surf goes over. Now I'm feeling a little sprinkles here. Now I made it this far, so if the rain does pick up, I can run in the store here, but we'll head up Broadway. It's just starting to sprinkle here a little bit. Yeah, there's Surf Street. It jogs over there. Here's a Chicago alley, little bitty one. There, yummy Asian cuisine. Yeah, you got to see a lot of the city. I'm amazed how much ground you covered there, Christopher. And he went to Chinatown. He went up to Uptown, downtown, Uptown, Lakefront, Lincoln Park. See, the rain's coming down here. So what I'm gonna do is, if this rain keeps up, we'll go up to Mariano's and we'll end this live. Thanks everybody for tuning in here. I really appreciate it. Our little walk through Lincoln Park and Lakeview on a rainy day here in Chicago. Here we're at Oakdale and Broadway. A lot of times I do this walk in the morning on Fridays if I work from home on Fridays. People that tune in on TikTok know that. See this Lakeview. Welcome to Lakeview East Shop Dine. And they got a tailor right here, dresses and gowns. But here, welcome to Lakeview East. Look at this nice classic vintage. Looks like the 50s. Let's see the nice housing here. But yeah, the rain's coming down. Just steady little rain there. Yeah, Denise. Oh yeah, electric bike. I used to live stream more from the bike. Now I have to do it on YouTube now. TikTok doesn't like me live streaming from a bike. I get all kinds of violations, and it doesn't just happen to me. It happens to Dan all day in New York City, and other people complain about it too. Even Nick Koiken got a violation from riding a bike once. So, but YouTube, it's fine. Sometimes we've rode a bike down to Northerly Island. Here, Pokey Goo. Here, this nice authentic Mexican food here. And you can sit outside here at the Corzo. But not today because it's raining. There, they got the Sumo, Nancy's Pizza, Cesar's Killer Margaritas, Ramen Crisp. Here's the Foresight. They're all over the place. A frame shop. They got all kinds of knickknacks, doodads. There, look at that. These nice little. This is a really nice commercial strip here along Broadway. It goes all the way up for a long ways. Yeah, I've been on Melrose Street in Los Angeles. This is Chicago, but does this look like Melrose Street on LA? Maybe it's a little. There's some nice pedestrian commercial strips in Los Angeles. Wilshire, all the amazing housing along Wilshire, east to the west there. Hopefully one day they'll extend the subway all the way to the La Brea tar pits there. You can take it to Koreatown there in Los Angeles. Hey, there's the police van. Oh yeah, let's cross the street because we got to cross here anyway. This is Broadway looking south in Lakeview, Chicago. This is Broadway looking north. See the rain's coming down here. We'll cross here at Wellington. Yeah, that's right. Billy Joel was that last year? Billy Joel, or the year before that? Yeah, Billy Joel was at Wrigley. Yeah, you're right. Maybe you come back here. I think one time Billy Joel and Elvin John played at Wrigley Field. Maybe that's the one you're thinking of. But yeah, there's some concerts at Wrigley. We'll try to catch that. See, Happy Pride Month there. They got where is this at? Wrightwood, 659 Chicago. They got a museum there, or some exhibit about the history. Oh yeah, we get more steamy in July and August. We get hot, humid weather. It can get really hot in Chicago. I just requested for them to install my air conditioner. It wasn't. I didn't even need it, even though it was 80 degrees, because my building, the walls are so thick that it was still kind of cool, even though it was 80 degrees. I have not yet run the air conditioner, even though I got a window unit, yet this year. And it's June the 4th. And I'm about to go to Texas, where they've probably been running the air conditioner since February. They've probably been swimming in the pool since March. They got an outdoor pool. My sister and brother-in-law, they're here. Well, there's the Flub It Up Chub there. We show it all the time. LA Consignment Shop here. We're up at Mariano's. 12:45. This rain's not bad. I'll still try to stream for the next 15 minutes here to try to complete the hour here for the lunch bunch. I'll go into Mariano's here, but I'm not in any rush today. I'll go a little further on Broadway here. The rain's just barely. I got a towel I can wipe off my equipment. It's not bad at all. I'm wearing a. Hey, the Cubs beat the Washington Nationals last night. And the White Sox beat the Detroit Tigers, the best team in baseball. Kevin was all gloating because, of course, the Sox lost the first game, but at least I think the Sox won 8-1. But the Cubs people were keeping me updated on the score yesterday. The game started at 5:40 yesterday, so when I was streaming on the beach there, people were updating with the score. It was 3-3, but I think the Cubs won like, what, 8-3? What was the final score? 7-3? Let's look it up here. Hey, we got something to root for here. Oh, yeah, and we were talking about, Ernie was talking about it too, the new, 8-3, the new soccer stadium for the Chicago Fire in South Loop there. And there was some other guy from Chicago, he was streaming down there by Roosevelt. Maybe he was showing the site there last night. We got so many more Chicago live streams now, which is great. Here's Stella's. Look at that ring there holding the forks there. We'll show you this. Yeah, we saw this when we were up in Andersonville. There's a lot of buildings in Andersonville that are similar to these ones on Broadway. You can find them throughout Chicago, even on the south and west side. See how they got this classic one-story storefront, and they put the detail around the corner. They added that hand there, but Stella's here, a nice diner. We go there for brunch sometimes. So they added 2 more stories to this. This was a parking garage, now it's housing. And they added 2 more floors to it. Isn't that amazing? Look at this one. This one's blue. They painted it blue. They got this nice corner. So we got this commercial building. We got these, and we see this all like. See, they're up there too. All these commercial strips. So we'll show it here. So I can't. Oh. So since we're on YouTube, I can show this stuff. They got pet CBD. Look at that. I can't get in a habit of showing it because I forget, and I show it on TikTok, and they give me a violation. TikTok's a bunch of prudes because they want to market to your kids. Oh, you saw Billy and Elton together? Cincinnati, that's great, yeah. Oh, that's great. I'm glad you saw that. Yeah, light rain for the next 60 minutes. So my general plan is we'll stream here until about 1 o'clock on YouTube. Then I'm going to go inside Mariano's. Big Shoulders Coffee here. We're on Broadway. We'll head up to Belmont and we'll turn around. But see, we got the lunch stream in. I try as much as possible to stream in consistent time slots there. You know, I got the morning time slot on TikTok, 6:30 to 8 a.m. Chicago time, and then we stream from noon to 1. Here's the Wild. This is such a nice place here. People sit out here. But here, yeah, here's another one of these commercial storefronts there. Look at that nice detailing there on the corner. And again, one story. You see this on Clark Street. They would just build a one-story commercial with no housing above. You know, and yeah, need a new vape. That's great. Yeah, we can talk about it on YouTube. That's great. See, there you go. Welcome. Come to the land. Well, Ohio legalized. Isn't that awesome, Michael? Ohio legalized. So Indiana is surrounded now, besides Kentucky. So Michigan, Illinois, and Ohio are all legal. Indiana's and Kentucky are the last holdouts, which is ironic because Kentucky's such a tobacco and bourbon state. But Kentucky and Tennessee are weird. Some of those places where they make the bourbon, they're dry counties. They had so much problem with alcoholism, the whole county's dry. You know, even after Prohibition, you have to drive to the county line there. Even Fort Worth, Texas, there's some dry counties around there. Here's Briar and Broadway. You have to go to the Fort Worth city limits. But here, look at these buildings along Broadway here. This is Lakeview, Chicago. So we got liquor stores, and here, Lakeview East here, they got this nice mural here on the scaffolding here. Hey, look at the flowers here, Lakeview East, Chicago. Under the scaffolding here. Yeah, breaking the law, breaking the law. Made us like otherwise law-abiding citizens. We felt like criminals for years. What's the biggest change for good since I've been there? That's a good question. Let's see if I can answer that. That's a good, intelligent question. So here, we'll show you the Laugh Factory. I'm thinking about that question there because I want to answer it right. So I don't know if this is the best thing because this is still controversial. Well, okay. Okay, from my perspective, and this has nothing to do with Chicago, yeah, legalization was big in my book because I always felt like a criminal my whole life, you know, sneaking a toke there and getting a job, and, you know, even at the federal level, it's still problematic. There's still, you know, if you work in the construction industry, you still get drug tested, you know, for obvious reasons, just like truck drivers and stuff do too. But in Chicago specifically, when I moved to Chicago, there were no bike lanes. And this is probably true of every city. Now there's bike lanes in most major cities. I remember riding in the critical mass, and you know, since I don't have a car, I ride bikes. And we would ride the critical mass, and they still have the critical mass, but I don't ride in the critical masses anymore because we got bike lanes. We got bike lanes now. That's what we. And now people like in Washington D.C. they think there's too many bike lanes. I know Kenny was complaining about in New York City on Queens Boulevard there in Queens, New York City. You know, the bike lanes are too wide. People ride the wrong direction. It creates confusion for the buses where to get off on the buses and stuff. But they made a lot of improvements. I know a lot of drivers don't like the bike lanes, but I personally like the bike lanes. When I moved to Chicago, there were no bike lanes anywhere. Now there's bike lanes, but that's not specific to Chicago. Let me see if I can think of anything else. It's amazing the changes that happened around Wrigley Field. When I moved here, Wrigley Field, and most Sox fans still call Wrigley Field a dump, and they might be right, but it was really a dump before Ricketts bought it, and you know, the roof was falling off, and they had to have netting around the roof. And Ricketts, this is not a positive. Ricketts has changed the whole area. He's added those hotels and tore down some of the Wrigleyville rooftops and is building new housing and built a big casino there. But the changes that have happened in Wrigleyville, like if you haven't been to Chicago in 20 years and used to go to a Cubs game, and you go back there now, besides the stadium itself, which there's a lot of alterations happened to the stadium. Like the old McDonald's that was across, and that car wash, it's all Gallagher Way. They have the Zachary Hotel. Clark Street has changed significantly. There's a few of the old bars that are there, but some of the, you know, Murphy's Bleachers is still there, and Yaxie's and things like that. But a lot of the bars are completely different, and they'll change even every year. There'll be like a new bar. You're like, what happened to this bar? You know, but I would say, okay, here. Now I can answer your question. And again, all these things, I nuance it. It's a positive and negative to everything, even what I'm about to tell you. The question was, what's been the most significant change that I've seen since I came to Chicago? Now I know what it is. I started coming to Chicago in the 1990s. Cabrini Green was still here. The public housing, public housing, huge developments there that all cities had, like Pruitt-Igoe and St. Louis. There was the Robert Taylor Homes on the south side, Stateway Gardens. There was Henry Horner Homes on the west side. There was Cabrini Green. When I came in the 90s, all those were still there. I as an urban planner, we drove through there. I took pictures. You know, it was scary, you know, for me to be a country boy going through these notorious, you know, public housing developments, huge, when people were still living there. And when I moved to Chicago, most of them, people still lived there. The towers, you could see them from the elevated trains as you would go in on any of the train lines there, Green Line, Brown Line, and even the, you know, the Pink Line wasn't even there. And so all those housing developments have been torn down. And again, positive, negatives, everything. You know, there's gentrification. They haven't replaced the housing. There's still, housing affordability is still an issue. They promised those people they would build mixed rate housing, and it didn't come to fruition, and there's still empty lots there. And but that's probably been the most significant change to this city, is that there used to be huge blocks, miles long, these huge housing development projects. They were called the projects. And you could see it from the Dan Ryan, you could see it from the Eisenhower Expressway. Like you would come out the United Center and you would see the Henry Horner homes right there. And they're gone. And then now there's like new housing there. They built a new Green Line station. They have built a lot of here's another new development. They redid a lot of the CTA stations. They added ADA accessibility. This is since the 90s. People remember the old metro stations. They were all wood, and you would step on a nail, and it was all rotten wood. And they replaced some of those. They replaced some of the old L stations. You can still see some of the old ones downtown, but they replaced some of the ones downtown, consolidated them. So they tore down the public housing, and a lot of it, some of it remains, and they tore down the most notorious ones. and they built some new CTA stations. The one at Cermak, no, the one at they built a brand new Green Line station near Chinatown, which didn't used to be there. They built a new Green Line station at United Center on Damon that didn't used to be there, and they built some other redid the platforms. So does that answer your question there? Hopefully that makes sense there. Yeah, Ernie's a native Chicagoan there, so I'll defer to him there. Yeah, the pink was blue. You're right. The blue line used to split. Now, how confusing was that? The blue line would split. There were two blue lines that went west. Remember that? And then they made one the pink line, because that where you go by the United Center, they didn't used to use that tracks. Those were completely abandoned, and they reutilized it where you branch off the green line and take the pink line down to Pilsen and go through the hospitals there. But hey, we got 12:56. We'll go to Mariano's. Thanks everybody for tuning in. I hope this was enjoyable. I know I missed a lot of the comments there, but we got good moderators and other people. If you see an answer, somebody asks a question, you know the answer, just put it in the comments there. We help each other out. And yeah, I'm gonna go to Mariano's here. Well, see, here's another thing. There didn't used to be all these grocery stores. You know, there was a lot of mom and pop grocery stores, and there's still a few like the Big Apple and Carnival, but then they got these big chains like this. Mariano's was its own chain. It got brought up by Kroger's. All this consolidation. And we've lost some of our grocery stores, especially on the south and west sides. But there's Flubba Dub Chub, and there's Monsignor Murphy. So hey, yeah, the pink line. Yeah, it was worse. It was worse. It was more. The gangs were worse in the 80s and 90s, in the 70s. Remember the Peoples and the Folks, and you know that's why Larry Hoover. That's a big deal. But hey, I'll get off here. I'm gonna go in and get some groceries. Thanks to my mods. Thanks everybody else for tuning in here on YouTube. I'm going to get some groceries in about 15-20 minutes. I'll be back on TikTok. We'll see what the rain's doing. I'll reverse this. We'll head back. Thanks for tuning in here, and we'll see you on TikTok in a few minutes here. Okay, thanks a lot. Yeah, this is called Lakeview, so thanks for tuning in there. Have a great day there. Thanks, Ernie, and thanks, Michael, and everybody else there. And Mary Therese and Shauna and everybody else. And I don't know if Chris was tuning in there. We'll talk to you later. Okay, we'll see you later. All the Michaels.